Greetings, my friends, and welcome to No Nonsense Metal Reviews. I'm George, and today we have another installment of Worst to First for you. This is the album rankings of Iowa, nu metal, groove metal, just extreme metal kings of their generation, of the modern heavy extreme metal world. I'm talking about Slipknot. So this is not an easy topic to approach because for me, Slipknot are one of my all-time favorites. They were the band that introduced me to music, really. I grew up around parents who liked rock music, heavy rock, heavy metal at times, but I'm talking things like The Who or Whitesnake or Journey or a bit of Black Sabbath here and there. I'm not talking about extreme metal. It was only when All Hope Is Gone was coming out around that time, and a couple of buddies of mine who were a little bit more ahead of me in terms of actually getting into music and liking music, having a knowledge of it in the first place, they were into Slipknot. And I remember saying, what on earth is that all about? What on earth is Slipknot? And them saying, you gotta hear it. You gotta hear it. It's totally insane. They wear masks. It's all scary. There's all these rumors and stories about them sacrificing goats and nonsense. But I listened to Psychosocial, I listened to Sulfur, I listened to Dead Memories, and that was it. I was hooked. I was hooked. And years later, I've seen them a number of times. I've got their logo tattooed on my skin. I'm a fan. So I've got history with these guys, and I just thought that it was time to tackle Slipknot's catalogue. So, without further delay, we've got 7 albums to get through here. We've got 7 albums, none of which are bad albums. None of which are albums that just suck, that I would think, don't bother listening to it, it's not worth it. They are all good albums. Just because one album ranks slightly higher than another, it doesn't mean that the one that's lower down is a bad album. It doesn't mean that it sucks. It just means that I personally rate one album slightly more than another. And do bear in mind, I know Slipknot are a very popular band. They're very mainstream in the fact that they are a huge success, an international success. This is entirely my opinion. So do bear that in mind. This is my opinion, my choices. I'd love to hear everyone else's rankings of the Slipknot albums. That's totally fine. Let's have a discussion. This is all good, friendly metal talk, okay? So, let's kick off. Number 7. We're going to go into ascending order from the worst to the first. For me, it was an easy choice. Maybe it's because I haven't had as long to familiarise myself with the end so far, released in 2022, but this album, for me, is a difficult one. It's a very good album, there's no doubt about that, and it deserves a spot as it has claimed its place in my top 15 albums of 2022. You may have seen that one. It ranked pretty high in that, and it's a good album. You've got some great tracks here, no doubt at all. You've got the Chapel Town Rag, heavy as hell, love it. It's a great example of a culmination of Slipknot's styles and sounds, their evolution, their capabilities. You've got Hive Mind, which is a brilliant track. Hive Mind is probably one of the heaviest moments on the album. A brilliant number. Medicine for the Dead is very weird, very strange. Great track though. My personal favourite is H377. That is a killer track. Love that number. Heavy as hell. But there's just a few moments here that lose points for me. Adderall, very interesting, weird, sort of funky, bluesy, proggy introduction piece that's over 5 minutes long. The Dying Song, Time to Sing, which is heavy, but it just doesn't quite pick the flow up enough after that very slow burning intro track. Yen derails the pace slightly. Desard again loses pace, and Finale brings the pace right down to a close. So it's a difficult one. but it's not a bad album at all. It's a good album. I just think that there's a lot of Slipknot albums that rank slightly higher. So, number 7 for me has to be The End So Far. Next up, number 6. This was a very difficult choice for me. They all are really difficult choices. But number 6 has to go to All Hope Is Gone. Now, I rate this album very highly. And depending on what time of day you ask me, or I had to do this, or what the weather was like, or the alignment of the stars, this may rank higher than number 5. But for now, I'm feeling that this is a solid number 6. It's a masterpiece. This is the first album that I ever liked. So for me, it has a lot of sentimental place, but there's just something that some of the other albums have, which just draws me back in, draws me closer to those albums. But tracks like Dramatria, like Sulphur, Psychosocial, and certainly with the latter half of the album where you've got Weather and Lies Continue, All Hope Is Gone, and This Cold Black, these are more contemporary death metal, more in line with extreme end of groove metal. This is really, really, really heavy stuff. Not to be underestimated. Corey's vocals on All Hope Is Gone, I think they sound more aggressive than at any other point in Slipknot's catalogue and history. It's a masterpiece. We also had really deep emotive moments like Dead Memory or Snuff. Really emotive stuff, really powerful. The songwriting here is amazing. Absolutely love it. You've got Vendetta, which is a total curveball because it's quite an upbeat, rocking, kind of swaggering number. It's a great song. We've got Butcher's Hook and Gehenna, which are just a bit weird, a little bit unsettling, but it's great stuff. Psychosocial beats the crap out of most other big successful tracks because everyone knows Psychosocial. It's one of those big hits, certainly a massive hit for Slipknot, and it is heavy as hell. It's just chugging, breakdown, crushing metal. It's extreme. Absolutely love that one. So, number 6, an absolutely majestic album. Of course, it was the last album to feature Paul Gray on bass and, again, the late, great Joey Jordison on drums. 2 masterful musicians at their very best here. This is fantastic stuff. So number 6, we're going with All Hope Is Gone. On to number 5 then. I'm going with the 1999 or 2000, depending on where you are in the world. I think it was released at slightly different times. The debut self-titled album, Slipknot. This is actually the 10th anniversary edition, so this is old as well now. This is 10 years of the 10th anniversary edition. This one, luckily, has the inclusion of Purity, which is a fantastic song. I just don't understand how that didn't get onto the original mix. But this is brutal. This is nasty. This is very, very heavily leaning towards the nu metal side of things rather than what they've gone on to become, which is more of a groovy, extreme metal band. But no one can deny the mesmerising, awe-inspiring power of Sick and Eyeless. That 1-2 blow. You can't listen to one without wanting to hear the other. Just the flow is perfect. It's brutal, it's crushing. The raw energy and the aggression in the music and in Corey's vocals, it's harrowing stuff. Paul Gray's bass is just nasty. It's almost brown noise at times. Mick and James on the guitars, those riffs are nasty. Joey is absolutely killing it behind the kit. It's amazing stuff. Wait and Bleed, that's a creepy track, no doubt at all. But for me, the standouts are actually slightly later in the album. Tracks like Surfacing, which is just such an antisocial, nasty, bruising track. You have to respect the pure aggression and spite that has gone into a track like that. Tattered and Torn is, of course, one creepy as hell track. Spit It Out is the big, anthemic, crowd-pleasing live favourite, the nu metal staple. one of the most nu metal tracks of the album and of their catalogue. Liberate, another bruiser. No Life, amazing stuff. Only One. Me Inside as well, where they've got big choruses as well. Corey's using his less aggressive vocal style here. It sounds nasty. This is a really nasty sounding album. Produced by Ross Robinson. This is a nasty, evil piece of work. Absolutely love it. So number 5, self-titled album. Next up, number 4. Number 4 and number 3 almost have interchangeable places because there's actually equal number of tracks that really stand out for me on both of these albums. They came out respectively at different difficult periods in my life where I really did rely on music to help me through, and I have a lot of emotional connection and sentiment to both of these albums. But for the purposes of this, and because I'm currently feeling that number 3 is slightly higher in my estimations than number 4, I'm going with We Are Not Your Kind. Now, for a lot of people, this would easily be a favourite because it's a masterful album. It's a fantastic piece of work. It was released in 2019, and it really did show in many people's eyes, a return to form. I personally don't think that they were out of shape or off form, in fact, but We Are Not Your Kind showcased a whole different level of creativity for Slipknot. Likes of Unsainted, perfect. That is a perfect Slipknot number. We've got a crushing breakdown, we've got nasty vocals, we've got crazy kind of electro elements, the drumming is mental. Hey, what's not to like? It's great stuff. Birth of the Cruel, a formidable track indeed, heavy as hell, love that one. Nero Forte, a rapping kind of crazy new metal, groove metal, extreme metal piece, showcases again all of the different styles and elements that Slipknot have incorporated throughout their career into their music style. It's a great number. A Liar's Funeral is certainly an interesting one because it's a slower paced intro building into a monumentally heavy breakdown. I love that number. Red Flag is a short, sharp smack in the face. It's very heavy indeed. Love that one. Orphan, another standout for me. Brutal. Corey's vocals are amazing. It's all very powerful. It's all very genuine, very emotive stuff. There's real energy there. Real passion. And of course the closing track, Solway Firth, which is probably one of the best tracks on the album. I would probably say that Solway Firth, along with, for me anyway, Orphan, and I'm gonna go with Birth of the Cruel. I absolutely love that number because it's got so much freaking attitude. But it's a brilliant album. We Are Not Your Kind is a superb album. It's got that release where it's clearly a cathartic experience for the musicians, for the writers, and it also is a catharsis to listen to. If you're having a bad time, if you're pissed off, work's crap, you got oppressive parents, family members, whatever, listen to an album like this and it is therapy. We Are Not Your Kind, clocking in at album number 4. A masterpiece. On to number 3 then. It was only going to be The Grey Chapter. A difficult album for the band, released in 2014. This was the first album, of course, after the tragic loss of Paul Gray and the departure of Joey Jordison. So we had the introduction of 2 new members, but this definitively sounds like Slipknot. For me, this album, it has the energy and it has the style, it has the power of almost a mixture between Iowa and Volume 3, which is why it ranks so high for me. But Sarcastrophe, that is raw, that is nasty, that is aggressive. It is full of crunchy riffs. I absolutely love that number. AOV, Approaching Original Violence, such attitude. We've got the great contrast of Corey's clean vocals in the chorus. So good. I love Jay's drumming style. I think that he's a fantastic drummer, and he really does deliver a solid performance throughout this album. The Devil in I is unbelievably memorable and catchy. It is a brilliant track. You can understand why it was a great single, a great choice, a great lead that has got lots of radio play and became a live favourite. Elsewhere, there are some rawer, rougher moments, such as Skeptic, which is just ballistically nasty. I absolutely love that one. Leech is a good heavy moment. Some tracks are a little bit kind of lost in the mix for me, like Goodbye and Nomadic, the one that kills the least. But then you've got Custer, and you've got the -1. Those are so raw. It's so aggressive. It's got so much groove, so much power. It is brutal, and I love it. And I think this is a fine moment. A lot of fans didn't warm to it quite as much as certainly myself. A lot of fans thought that it was almost a little bit of a derailing, but I don't see how. I've read a lot of things where people have said it wasn't very good. It wasn't a very good album. It just missed the point, missed the mark. But actually, it's a damn fine album. So I'm going with 0.5, The Grey Chapter, for my number 3. Now it gets difficult. On to number 2. Depending, again, as I've said, depending on when you ask me or how I'm feeling, number 1 and number 2 could interchange. But I'm saying that number 2 for me is Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses. Produced by Rick Rubin, the great producer himself, released in 2004. This was a complete stylistic deviation and change from what they had been doing with the self-titled and with Iowa. They had gone off in a completely different direction, sounding far less nu metal, far more groove, very extreme. It's a fantastic album, showcasing Corey as a powerful, prominent, clean singer as well. There's such emotion here. You can hear the power, you can hear the pain in the musicians, in the instrumentals. You can hear it in Corey's vocals and his lyrics. The blister exists. Just that commanding, marching, drumming, it's just mesmerising stuff. It's a perfect live track. Unfortunately, they just don't play it as much live anymore, but it's just a monster of a track. 3-0. I think 3-0 along with Opium of the People and Welcome, they are standout moments for me. But we've also got Duality, that big, catchy, anthemic, almost like a party track. It's just such good. It just gets everyone moving. It's such a good song. Pulse of the Maggots, how could we forget? Before I forget, Say No More. Talk about metal anthem. That is a freaking masterpiece. I love Vermilion, part 1 and 2. I think they're both amazing pieces of work. Beautiful stuff. You know what? I'm going to say that Circle and Danger Keep Away, they are beautiful songs. Those are the slow, clean numbers, but they are oozing with pain and emotion and frustration and hurt, and you can feel it. It's visceral, and I absolutely love this album. It meant a hell of a lot to me when I first heard it, which was obviously many years after it had come out, but I love it. Volume 3, Subliminal Verses, ranking at number 2, which leaves only one choice for number 1, and it was going to be Iowa for me. This is another level of heaviness. This is, in my opinion, the heaviest that Slipknot achieved and have achieved to date. This is brutal stuff. It's nasty as hell. The guitar tones here, Corey's vocals, Joey's drumming. It's just no word to describe how brutal and how good this album is. People Equal Shit, Disaster Piece, My Plague. Oh, just everything. Everything ends. Another killer moment, a weird one. Vocally, it's very weird. For a long time, I didn't really understand the song, but then they started playing it live, certainly on one of the occasions I saw them, and you can really understand it. It's got so much groove, so much energy. The Heretic Anthem. Anthemic, huge and heavy. Gently, creepy, unsettling, unnerving, and beautiful at the same time. Left Behind, raw, nasty, full of crunch, full of groove, full of aggression. I absolutely love tracks like The Shape and Skin Ticket, New Abortion, Metabolic. Those are the tracks that are the second half of the album that quite easily get forgotten about. Certainly when you've got tracks like People Equal Shit, Disaster Piece, My Plague, The Heretic Anthem on the first half, those are the bigger hits. The second half, in my opinion, is just as strong. I Am Hatred, that's an anthem, that's an ode to the underground, to the underdogs. Absolutely love it. Full of energy, so much aggression. Even the very weird, kind of psychedelic, proggy, unsettling Iowa title track at the end there. It's a long piece. Damn fine. So I'm going with Iowa as my favourite Slipknot album. That is the first to me. When I first heard this, which was not that long after I had actually got into the band through All Hope Is Gone, I then went on to the self-titled and then Iowa before Volume 3 later. Loved it. Changed my life forever. It's one of my favourite albums of all time, and it is an absolutely brutal masterpiece. So there you have it. My rundown of the album rankings of Slipknot. We had at number 1, Iowa. So good. Number 2, we had Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses. We have point 5, The Grey Chapter. Number 4, We Are Not Your Kind. Number 5, Slipknot self-titled album. Number 6, we have All Hope Is Gone. And last, but certainly not least, The End So Far. So, come on, what do you think of my album rankings there? And also, I want to hear how you rank the catalogue of Slipknot. What are your favourites? What are your least favourites? What's your first? What's your worst? I want to hear it. I'm very interested to hear. Thank you very much for watching this particular episode, and do check back soon for more reviews, more recommendations. Do feel free to like and subscribe. It's very much appreciated as always. You take care, my friends. Stay heavy.